Jared Kushner is one of the architects of what President Trump calls the deal of the century, a peace plan between Israelis and Palestinians. He's been visiting capitals in the Middle East to gather support for the proposal. Well, Gary Lane discussed the plan with Middle East expert Jonathan Schanzer on the Global Lane.
Why is Jared Kushner going to the Middle East? We've seen some diplomacy here between the Saudi Arabians, also Gulf states, UAE, right? Bahrain, Qatar. What's going on?
Well, it's interesting that really the common foe that the Arabs and the Israelis have is Iran. And the fear of Iran, the anger at Iranian terrorism and destabilization across the Middle East, this has brought the Arabs and Israel together. And so we're at a place right now where Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, the Donald Trump administration may be able to utilize the Arab states for the first time in trying to bring the Palestinians to the negotiating table. They may have a more positive role to play because of this shared antipathy toward the Iranians.
Well, they're being tight-lipped about this peace plan. I don't think it's all completely formulated yet. They're still adding to it, I'm sure. What do you think's in it?
You know, it's funny, I've had the opportunity to talk with some of the folks at the White House about this. It is an incredibly well-guarded secret. They don't share any of the specifics, not privately, not publicly. It's really remarkable. There are a lot of people who say that this is like a Seinfeld episode. It's a show about nothing. And then there are other people who say, well, you know, it's going to be terrific. We just need to wait for this thing to be trotted out. My understanding is that it is going to be probably more generous to the Israelis than previous peace plans that have offered the Palestinians 90 or 95% of the West Bank. It'll probably be much less than that this time around. I think there's going to be a lot of economic inducements for the Palestinians. They're going to try to bring the Palestinians along economically before giving them a lot of those political benefits that they've been looking for.
Little carrot and stick approach here.
I think that's right.
I think. Now, some people have said that the Saudis, part of this proposal is to allow the Saudis to have control over parts of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque and so forth. And you know, as I do, I've been covering this for many years now. Jerusalem is a sticking point.
It absolutely will be. I think that it's probably a non-starter for the Saudis to have control. You have to remember the Jordanians have long laid claim to Jerusalem, that even after the Israelis reclaimed Jerusalem after the 1967 war, they still allowed the religious authorities in Jordan to continue to administer the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I expect that to continue, given the fact that there's already a peace agreement between the Jordanians and the Israelis. I think the Israelis would be loath to disrupt that in any way.
Now, Mahmoud Abbas is saying, look, we really need an international conference here. Forget what Trump is doing. Almost seems like he's trying to sabotage whatever Jared Kushner and Trump are trying to pull off here.
He absolutely is. This is a guy, you have to remember, he's now, I think it's 14 years into a 4-year term. He's getting up there in age. He won't name a vice president. He wants to control the entire process, and his people are very angry at the White House. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that we moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem last year. We've been defunding the Palestinians because of their support for terrorism. So there is antipathy between this Palestinian Authority and the White House. I don't expect these guys to cooperate, and I expect them to be the folks that say no, no matter what is trotted out by the White House. And I think the Israelis are probably banking on that.
Not to mention Hamas. What do you do about them in Gaza?
Well, that's actually an interesting thing. That's come up a number of times with my conversations with folks in the White House about this. They continue to be vexed by this problem. Of course, there are effectively 2 Palestinian entities right now, one in the Gaza Strip controlled by Hamas, the other one in the West Bank controlled by Mahmoud Abbas. These 2 sides are at war. They have been at war with one another since 2007. And so any deal that is going to be struck will only encompass the West Bank. It's not like Hamas is going to come to the table and end all of its claims. That's really not in the cards. So we're not going to have a final status negotiation no matter what happens.